Pro level site executes are all about setting up a duelist as perfectly as possible. And though the same can be true in ranked, I think we can all agree that most of the time it doesn't really happen. But at the same time, pros seem to perform very well in ranked despite getting only 10% of the support they're probably used to getting from their team. So how do they do it? Hey everyone, it's Konpeki here, and in today's video, I want to go over 5 duelist tips that you can steal from pros and easily implement in your own ranked games. All these tips are very different, so no matter what kind of player you are, there should be something new for you. And if you need more hands-on help to implement any of these tips, my team of Radiant and VCT coaches can help you rank up 500 RR in just 10 weeks, guaranteed, or else you get coached for free until you do inside the Immortal roadmap program. You'll be getting over 100 hours of personalized coaching with hands-on drills, scrims, and one-on-ones. Make sure you learn everything you need to hit Immortal Plus. So if you're serious about putting in the work with world-class coaches, click the link in the description below to book a free call with me or one of our coaches to see if we'd be a good fit. And hurry, because the next season starts in January and there's 29 out of 80 spots remaining. Now, back to the video. Starting off with who is easily the most exciting prospect in the scene right now, we have Florescent, who will be joining Apex in the upcoming VCT EMEA season. If you haven't heard of Flor before, she is cracked. She's been absolutely dominating the game changer scene for the past years, and now she's finally going to compete at the highest level of VCT. I think we can all agree she's one of the best mechanical players in NA, period. However, this tip isn't talking about her mechanics. Instead, I want to focus on how she plays Duelist just right by sticking to the script and performing it well. Let's take a closer look. In this game, she starts out the pistol round by heading over towards B together with her teammates. They're planning a rush, so Flor decisively runs up and smokes C-Link without being exposed to the angle first. She dashes into the smoke, making sure to check the corners, and she kills the Jet who tried to stop her push. After this, she continues taking more space, killing the Omen who is fighting her teammates. Then, she quickly turns back to C-Link since there's no smoke there, and she also kills the Deadlock. At this point, the round should be won, but since Flor can ace, she tries to go for it, although her duo steals it. But that's what I mean. Until she went for that ace, everything she did was fundamentally right and followed the script for how a duelist should approach the situation perfectly. It's not rocket science, but the execution was amazing. And if you watch a lot of Flor, you'll notice she has these types of rounds all the time. In the round right after, she got hit early in the round and her HP was a bit low. This prompted her to change guns with her Sova so that she could dash in without risking losing a valuable weapon. She dashes in, again, checks her corners, and as she sees the enemy Sova hiding, she doesn't get greedy, but instead calls it out for her teammates who get the kill and even trade her out for the Omen, which wins them the round. Maybe it doesn't look like much compared to the pistol round, but this is the kind of selfless, round-oriented thinking you need to have as a top-level duelist. A few rounds later, you see Flor going for something similar. She's running into sight together with her Clove, who has ult, and she does a smoke dash much like the round before. Here, she sees both the Jet and Sova who are holding down the site. She realizes that if she dies, it's really difficult for her teammates to still get onto site. So she re-smokes in front of her to keep their attention on the smoke. At this point, she swings out behind the smoke where she kills Deadlock and starts a fight with Sova. Notice how, because she stayed alive for so long, it was really easy for her teammates to also find their way onto site. Instead of watching long and short, Flor's enemies had to worry about her smoke and how she could pop out of them at any moment. For your own games, try to learn from Florescent. Don't make things too complicated, but also don't get lazy. Make sure to check your corners to get maximum info and recognize when you need to re-smoke yourself in order to stay alive and help your team get on site. Florescent sticks to the script, does her job, and does it well. She can be flashy when the round demands it, but being flashy is not a goal in and of itself. If you're trying to be a great duelist, that's how you should strive to be as well. Now, this next tip comes from a player you probably weren't expecting to be mentioned in this video. That is FNC Boaster, but as you'll see, there's a good reason for that. That's because despite not being known for his flashy aim, he's able to carry his ranked games by excellent decision making throughout the game. Before the round starts, let's give a little context. Boaster isn't feeling too great.
I've always been dead today. Today's scrims, like I said, I didn't play that well. When you're not having a good day stream, you just gotta power through it.
He just came off a bad day of scrims, and he even says that even though his team played well, he himself definitely didn't, but that's not going to stop him. He insta-locks Duelist, and he tells his teammates that he's getting ready to carry.
Don't worry, gang. I got this.
Stop the cap.
On the first gun round, we see Boaster going towards short. Here, he plays calmly behind the enemy smoke, but as the enemy Sova tries to drone up, Boaster jumps on this opportunity and spams the Sova based on the noise. Rounds later, Boaster starts out around main, but as there's nothing there, he returns to short and does something a little bit different. He runs through the smoke based on a timing. At this point, the enemies have a good idea of what Boaster is doing. He's playing on short, and he's doing it pretty aggressively at that. However, this is where Boaster makes his first big adaptation. He starts out short, shoots the Cypher camera, and immediately runs towards mid to make a play together with his Yoru, where he ends up getting 3 kills.
Market us.
Damn.
The round following, he's changed his positioning again. Now he's playing from main, allowing him to get the kill on the unexpected Sova. He does get traded out, but if it wasn't for that one way, he probably could have had 1 or 2 more. 2 rounds later, we can again find Boaster in a whole new spot. He's sitting in mid, where his Yoru used to be. At the same time, Yoru and his Viper are making a play on B main. As Yoru falls early, the enemies know that mid is clear. Or is it? Boaster catches the enemy Reyna completely off guard. At this point, main isn't looking great, so Boaster dismisses out of there and tries to help his Viper. Boaster is able to trade her out, and now it's just Sova left on mid. At this point, Boaster just uses some flashes and deals with the final enemy, putting him at the top of the scoreboard in the process. Now, perhaps these kills didn't look as flashy as Florescent's pistol round, but that makes it all the better for you to learn from. By putting himself in unique positions every round, Boaster is keeping his enemies on their toes so that they constantly have to think about him. They can't drone safely behind a smoke, and in fact, they can't even trust smokes to hold him back. If you think you know where he is, he could already have changed positions, and it's really hard to get a read on him. If you're playing Duelist and you're looking to disrupt the enemy team, try to look for unpredictable plays for the enemy team as possible. This next third tip comes from PRX Something, who took some time to show us a nice round with some great decision making in spite of the fact that he was preparing for his recent Radiant Asia Invitational win. Starting off the round, Something is holding hookah. He's taking it slow, but all of a sudden, he hears an enemy sprinting it down long, taking lots of space and info. You know what that means. If Something places cards right here, he's gonna get a free kill. However, Something does not seem all that tempted. That's because he prefers having a free round. Instead of turning back and shooting the player in the back, Something decides to aggressively run up long, taking the gap that the enemy player left. Because his opponents took all of Fountain, he's probably saying that long is clear and that it's most likely going to be A. Something knows this, so he lets his teammates know that there is an enemy flanking, and he walks into the empty B site, allowing his team to come over after they deal with the flank. The enemy Cypher does check his cam to make sure nobody is taking long once his Reyna dies on the flank, but at this point, it's already too late. Something took the empty site, walked all the way into elbow, and is now reaping the rewards of his patient play by even getting 2 kills on the rotators who have no idea he can be there already. I think this round is something we can learn a lot from. Of course, it shows that sometimes a kill isn't always the most important thing, but it also highlights the importance of visualizing the map and being aware of how enemy players tend to play and rotate. Even though this exact scenario might be pretty rare, I'm sure you've run into similar scenarios where enemies are flanking or are otherwise leaving gaps on the map that you can abuse. In a scenario like this, it's pretty obvious that a player pushing up and taking info on one side means that his teammates are stacking the other side. In other words, even though you might not find such a great gap as Something did here, catching a flanker means that you should be looking to quickly take back space or at least pause for a second in order to mess with rotations. Now, moving on to the fourth tip, this next clip from Sentinel's latest edition, Narrate, might seem like something that is absolutely unachievable, and to be fair, he does hit some insane shots here. However, I think you'll find that as we break this clip down, there are a lot of small lessons you can easily implement in your own games to find more success. The first thing he does right away in this clip is that he doesn't make the mistake of chucking his raise nade into short immediately. You can very clearly see Narrate waiting for steps or sounds before he throws his nade from a safe position where he doesn't expose himself to any players running up short. This means that he's able to perfectly counter the enemy Skye, who is most likely getting ready to dog. But that's not everything. With Skye out of the picture, Narrate can now single out and isolate the players who are standing on the right side of short. Narrate places his crosshair perfectly for where the Cypher peaks, and as Raze tries to swing into trade, he walks into Narrate's crosshair, resulting in another nice shot. At this point, Narrate steps back to reset and continues isolating angles by re-clearing them one by one. He gets into an isolated fight with a Jet, which he wins, and after this, he quickly resets again to not expose himself to both Skye and Clove at the same time. From here, he re-peeks and isolates angles one final time as he holds an angle where only Skye can peek him. Since Skye doesn't seem all that willing to fight, he swings into Clove, and when Skye finally peeks, he jukes him with a nice crouch to mess up his crosshair placement. Of course, all this happened very fast, and you probably shouldn't try to force a 10-second ace in your own games. But having said that, there's a lot of things you can yoink here. First, he was intentional about saving his nade to counter enemy utility. in this case, Sky's dog. This meant that he could isolate the first 2 players, and if he hadn't used this nade, this play probably wouldn't have worked. Second, he did a great job isolating players. Even though he killed 5 people in 10 seconds, he was only fighting one of them at a time. And finally, he was really intentional about his movement. He didn't over peek and under peek any angles. He made sure to reset his crosshair and recoil while he was neatly going in and out of fights. And he was mixing in a lot of small crouches to make himself hard to trade. Try to practice all these elements individually, and I'm sure you'll have more success with any agent, and especially your duelists. Finally, for the last tip, I want to take a look at the star duelist of the team that almost won the latest VCT champions, that being Team Heretic's Miniboo. That's because I think Miniboo has really mastered an underrated skill for duelists that allows him to go for plays and get kills that otherwise aren't possible. And that skill is communication. The first example of this happens before the round has even started. That's because as the clock ticks down, Miniboo asks his teammate to let him know the moment they hear any form of noise at all.
Guys, just if you hear one bit of noise on any side, just tell me, I'm gonna override it.
This is a smart call because most players don't want to give out fake info. That means that a lot of the times, players withhold information until they have a higher degree of certainty since they don't want to get yelled at for giving a bad call. Miniboo here is basically saying that no matter how uncertain you are, let me know as soon as there's even a tiny hint of info, which allows him to arrive on the rotate much earlier. This round plays out exactly as he would have liked. Astra confidently says B the moment she hears a step,
B.
and Miniboo arrives on site before the first enemy is even out of main. He even gets 3 kills on the back of him arriving so early. 2 rounds later, he uses his teammates again.
Can you hold my window?
He asks his teammate to hold his window, which allows him to go for a play that otherwise would be extremely risky. This means that Miniboo is allowed to walk all the way up with his side fully exposed to window, which allows him to catch the enemy Neon completely off guard. Even in the literal next round, you can see Miniboo help his teammate go for a similar play. He holds the left side of mid while his ISO is walking down. Also, note that the moment he leaves his ISO alone, he communicates that as well. In short, having good aim and hitting shots is an important part of carrying games on duelists. However, it's still a team game, and by communicating with your teammates well, you can often eliminate a lot of risk and end up getting a lot of extra kills that are otherwise extremely risky or just impossible. That'll be it for now. Thanks for watching.